12-year-old Sean Crenshaw and his best friend Patrick are die-hard monster fanatics. Along with their friend Horace, junior high tough guy Rudy, Sean's kid sister Phoebe, and little Eugene, they come together and talk monsters. But when Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Gillman, and the Mummy come to their small town to get an amulet to control the world, Sean leads his friends into action to protect their town from the forces of evil. Welcome to another feature presentation of Midnight Double Feature, and on this episode we'll be covering 1987's The Monster Squad, directed by Fred Dekker. Welcome back, boys and girls, to Midnight Double Feature. Here we are, talking finally the epitome of Western film in the last 200 years, Monster Squad. Just kidding. Along with me, the Shane Black to my Fred Dekker. So, Ali, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing, man? It's been a minute. Glad to be back. Congratulations on your nuptials.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, had a good wedding. It was good.
Yeah.
It was short. It was a party. I made $35 off the Halo tournament that weekend, so that was nice. It was World Finals.
Dude, it was so funny because just a little bit of behind the scenes. I messaged you like, how was it, blah, 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 and you're just like, man, it was such a great weekend. Like, FaZe won the Halo tournament. And I was just like, you're a fucking idiot. You're a jackass.
I was like, one of these things I can control. The other one, not so much. But no, it was that honestly did make it like such a great weekend as well. Like your favorite like football team wins, you get married. Like we rented a cabin. It was a lot of fun, and it was a blast. And I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be recording again because it's been a month or like 6 weeks that we've taken off.
It's been nearly 2 months, man. Like it's been a minute.
Yeah, which I mean, and apologies for the absence, but at the same time, life happens, things get in the way, and a marriage is a pretty big one. And fuck you, we don't owe you an explanation. No, I'm I'm just kidding. We hope you guys missed us. We hope you guys didn't miss or get annoyed too much at our absence, and we're glad to be back, and definitely glad to be covering a movie I've talked about on here more than I have my own children, The Monster Squad. I'm excited as shit to be covering it, and this has been a long time in the making. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of this. And by the way, if you want to check out any of our socials, please check the show notes. They're down there. Just Google Midnight Double Feature. I can't help you if you can't do that. But a few things about our podcast. We are going to go through this thing, not exactly scene by scene, but we are going to go from top to bottom. There is an E on this motherfucker for a reason, so we are going to be, having some foul language and what have you. But with that out of the way, we can now jump into Monster Squad because it's been a long time coming. This episode, and it's something that one of my favorite movies since childhood, and I know I've mentioned it about a dozen times on here, if not more. I think there's a running joke as well. It's good, but it's no Monster Squad. Is kind of like the running joke in this podcast, and it seemed like the perfect choice to come back on, especially it's Halloween time. I wanted something spooky, but I wanted something that was quick, something I knew, something that would be a lot of fun, something that's an hour and 20 minutes. Oh, baby, you don't get that anymore. So that's kind of my opening thoughts, my opening impressions. I can go into my history with it after your opening thoughts. But finally, I've been waiting 5 years to ask you. It's almost 6 years. What did you think about Monster Squad? As I rock my Stephen King Rules t-shirt, by the way.
Yeah, take that gay-ass t-shirt off, dude, you piece of fucking shit. You think I didn't notice that, man? Okay, so when we picked this movie, we did our post on Facebook. We were just like, hey guys, we're going to be covering this movie. And in the comments, I was like, this is my wedding gift to you guys that I will be watching this. I watched it, and let me just tell you, just because it was your wedding, I will be giving no fucking quarter to this movie. I am way too old to have seen this for the first time this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'll say. That's what I'll tell you. It was an hour and 20. in the eternal struggle of you and I picking our movies every couple weeks, whatever, whenever we like switch them around, it's a conflict. It's a battle, right? Like between us whenever we like pick a movie. This is a war crime. This is a fucking war crime, dude.
Oh my God.
You are fucking Hamas. Look. Yeah, okay, look, I will give it this. It was actually kind of charming. I thought there was. I did take a few notes here. There was like some charming sort of like elements of it. Like it feels more like a Saturday morning cartoon, sort of like a TV movie kind of like vibe. Something that will come on at like 6 p.m. like right after like a
TV movie. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And something you kind of like pop on for like kids and leave them in the room while you go fuck your wife or some shit. Like something like that. It's the Avengers of 20th Century Fox fucking monster movies. Like, the dialogue is atrocious at points, like to the point where I'm just like, why is like Shane Black wrote this? I don't get it, but okay. Band-Aid breath was nice.
Oh, yeah.
That guy, I just don't like that guy in general, dude. Like that guy was, you can get out of here. Just no way.
Oh, Rudy.
Fuck you, Rudy. I didn't recognize any names in this movie other than Tom Noonan, who plays Frankenstein.
Uncle Rico is the Wolfman, Jonathan Grease.
Okay, right.
I never pronounce it.
This thing cost $14 million. None of it is on screen at all. So what the fuck did they spend it on? Was this a money laundering? This is a money laundering scheme, dude. I'm telling you.
I disagree with that because you have to hire Stan Winston and Shane Black fresh off a Lethal Weapon. So it's like sorry, excuse me. It's like the kids' salaries, obviously, they're not getting paid shit, but I definitely think that you see like the fact that they built like a small town center at the end, and there's a lot. I think the movie obviously has a lot of problems, and there's reasons why it didn't succeed, but the visual aspect of it is the shit that I'm like, that can't be fucked with. Like the design, and like I feel like they spent the money in the right places, like getting unknown kids, but then making their monsters look cool as fuck. Like some of the coolest looking monsters, maybe except for Wolfman. He looks a little I'll be honest, he looks a little downsy now. But
he looks like Asian Wolfman.
There's something going on. I applaud they're going after something different, but at the same time, it was like, it looks a little bit weird now. But I love the way Tom Noonan and Duncan Regehr, who plays Dracula. Like I love the way all of those guys look. And I think the production is done pretty well, but they're like the visual effects, like the portal and like the amulet shit, like it's 1987, but I do think that, what 14 million by today's standards, what is that, like 50-60 million dollars or something?
I wouldn't go that high. I think maybe closer to 30, somewhere there.
Okay.
You can get a Dread out of $30 million or a District 9 out of $30 million. Did I have fun watching this movie? Yes, for the most part. for the most part, I did. I actually did, because I just kind of like switched my brain off. Because right after this, I was watching The Witch, and I knew The Witch was coming, and I was like, all right, I'm going to switch my brain off and get into this kind of like, just sort of like entertainment mode before we have to watch Robert Eggers's The Witch,
right?
And then kind of like sort of analyze that. And I've seen The Witch before, so I know exactly what's coming. So this was a good sort of like trend setter, like mood setter sort of thing. It's got no meat on the bone whatsoever. Like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't know what we're going to talk about here. So I'm keen to see how this conversation goes. But I actually really want to know why you love it so much, because you fuck hard with this movie, dude.
Oh yeah, this is one of my personal favorite films of all time.
Behind you. You've got a poster right behind you.
Right. I have a signed poster from the cast behind me, and I'm wearing a Stephen King Rules t-shirt.
Can we just go hard on Andre Gower, because want to fucking smear his name right now, to be honest.
Well, okay, so
should we reveal some BTS?
Yeah, so this I think we talked about this before, but we had him on the show a few years ago. And we had him on for an interview because he did a documentary called Wolfman's Got Nards. It's actually a great documentary. And we had him on, and we had him on, and we like swapped a few emails, and I was like, yeah, basically what we do is you'll record and we'll record and yada yada, and that's just kind of how we do things. And he does a podcast, so I was like, okay, cool, like he'll kind of understand like like country recording and being in different places and yada yada. And it was pretty obvious
to people who are listening. It's like it's called recording locally, right? So you record, right? So this is exactly how Colin and I record. I record my audio on my side. Colin records his audio on his side, and then what happens is he sends me his audio file. I edit it together. Mm-hmm. Yada yada yada, and that like so.
Boom goes dynamite.
Right, exactly. And you came into that interview, and you kind of explained it to him like that's how we're gonna be doing it. He didn't raise any sort of like issues.
not at all. There was no. From the impression I got, he is a very, very nice guy, and I do like him a lot, but I don't think he really read like what I was sending. I don't know if he just kind of like saw it, was like, okay, cool, but we talked for like an hour and a half, maybe even longer, and then I was like, yeah, it's 4th of July, sometime around there a few years ago. And I was like, yeah, just send me your track over. And he was like, what am I? I remember him going, wait, so what am I sending you? And like that's when I was just like, oh fuck. And like I think there's been a total, and it felt very weird to talk to like one of the first, like this is like one of the first movies I remember like loving as a kid, and talking to the kid from Mod Squad and being like, yeah, like I talked about this like multiple times, like it's even in our emails and stuff. Like it was a very surreal experience. Like it was very odd, and he was incredibly, dude, I'm so sorry, like very apologetic and very nice guy. But the thing I didn't appreciate was trying to get him back on after that. It basically got I drew no conversation from him, for like
it's
weeks.
Not like he's an A-lister. Like he's not he's not seeing your communications. What the fuck?
And he's a very like it was awesome to just be able to contact him directly and just be like, hey, you want to come on? And he was very absolutely very excited to do it. Now, in his defense, like I think since we did our interview, like he almost had a heart attack and died. Andre Gower had like one of his
I feel terrible now.
No, well, one of his arteries was like 100% clogged, and they're like, if you'd waited 10 minutes, like you'd be dead. You'd be a DOA. So obviously, I know he's had like a shit ton of stuff on his plate. But we didn't try to get him back on until way after that, and I was basically told to go talk to his publicist, and I was like, nah, I'm good, man. I was like, I'm good. Like you're I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad that you're home and you're safe and everything. But that's just not how I do things. Like. So that was kind of the end of that, and it bummed me out, but at the same time, wish him nothing but the best of luck. He's a nice guy. But that's not up to me to get a hold of your publicist after you made a technical error. It's like, I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. I was like, I didn't really appreciate that. And I've met these people before and gotten shit signed. They're all very nice.
Yeah, no, of course. I tell you what, like a silver lining that came out of that experience though was that you and I, well, mostly me, because I'm the one who kind of like started doing more and more interviews after that.
Right.
I kind of like, I was like, all right, man, we gotta come up with another sort of solution, because we can't trust the guests, and we shouldn't really be trusting the guests to, doing technical stuff, right? I mean,
right.
You like podcasts who usually interview sort of like A-list celebrities and stuff like that have like a producer on the side, mm-hmm. and like that producer is like, predominantly in charge of like the technical aspects. So I just kind of like, like that Andre Gower experience colored my interviews going forward, and I was just like, all right, I gotta pay for this service. Can't remember what it's called now. But basically, yeah, like there's no need for local audio recording. It's just recording to the cloud. Because right after that, I think we got Robert Bellot, who was that lawyer from that Dark Waters movie, and I was just like, holy shit, man, this better fucking work. This better.
Right.
I remember being on just like absolute like fucking on my toes, dude. Like being like, this better fucking work.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Like all of our interviews going forward, I've always had this kind of like nervousness. And like I said, very nice guy, but I was just not really interested in pursuing that anymore. We had a great conversation. We had a fantastic conversation. We talked about like the resurgence of this, and even like possibly like he's like, yeah, I've had ideas for like sequels and stuff. Obviously, like I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And we talked about the documentary and just kind of like the impact and stuff. And he is a very nice guy and like a very humble dude. But yeah,
there is something nice about just you guys having that conversation though now, though.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
It sucks that nobody else was there for it, but I was so happy to like, it may have even been like 2.5 hours long. Like we talked, it definitely sucked, but it was a very surreal experience. I mean, like I get to interview like, you know, like my version of like a River Phoenix from Stand By Me. Like this was my Stand By Me as a kid, you know, so he is like the River Phoenix character for me. But it was still an awesome experience, just not with a great outcome. But the way I don't even know, it's been so long. And I'll be right off the riff, like there are parts of this movie that's going to be impossible for me to be objective about. Obviously, it's like you trying to be objective about something like Men in Black, you know, something you saw so tough. Young.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that had such an impact on you. And like this was, I'd say this and maybe even Fright Night were some of the first like this. I think this this Fright Night and the Tim Curry It are probably some of the first horror movies I remember watching. And this did not scare me like really at all. Maybe the stuff with Dracula a little bit, but this was definitely what like desensitized me as a little boy to like monsters, and kids were scared, and I just did not understand it because I saw this. I might have been in like, I don't know, I was probably 5, maybe 6, maybe 7. And you know, it just blew my mind. Like this was almost my introduction to film itself. Like it's really hard to not look at movies and think about like, you know, think about things from the Monster Squad and stuff, just because it was my introduction to a lot of these things. And that being said, like, you know, as a kid, obviously the amulet, like you love the story. It's this insanely cool story. And we had watched like, even at that age, I had watched like, the Mummy's like Revenge with Boris Karloff, or Frankenstein and Frankenstein meets Wolfman, like these old black and white, like Lon Chaney kind of movies. Yeah,
the Fox,
the classic,
the Universal.
Yeah.
Sorry, not Fox. Geez.
Yeah, the the Universal monster,
right.
Whatever.
I think I said Fox earlier. Like I'm a fucking moron, but no, yeah, Universal.
But yeah, this absolutely like blew my socks off as a kid, and you know this movie is an excuse to see cool shit, and like this is like my version, like where your version of a popcorn movie is like Fast and Furious, like my version of a popcorn movie is something like Monster Squad, where it's like, yeah, there's some really, I love the camera work. There's some cool music. There's some cool explosions and effects. But, you know, is there really a great story to Fast and the Furious? It's like, it's better than Monster Squad, I would say on paper. Yeah. Like a cop going undercover and shit. Like that's at least interesting. This is just MacGuffin and monsters. That's all it is. It's just MacGuffin and monsters. And like, I'm fine with that though, even as an adult, because it still looks, I say visually, think of movies from 1987 and think about what has come out around that time and how many bad, especially towards the end of the 80s, bad horror movies we got, and just bad horror movies in 80s in general. And think about the way that this one is shot, the way it looks. Like, I love the constant use of full body shots. Like, you know, there's not a lot of like close-ups. There's a lot of mid and full body shots. This feels like a Carpenter movie to me. Like, it feels like there's times where I'm watching it that I feel like I'm watching something like In the Mouth of Madness. Like, it has that aspect ratio and those mid to full cuts that I love, and I still think look incredible. I think visually, like the way this is shot, the music behind it, like competently, it's very, very competently made. But yeah, there's definitely 80s writing. There's definitely, like, they call each other faggots and stuff a lot. Like, there's a lot of dated shit in this movie. But obviously calling Horace the fat kid and shit. And it was like, and I was the fat kid growing up, and I still called him fat kid.
Dude.
And you know what's so sad? He died. He died really young.
Oh.
He died at like 20 of, I think I read, I think somebody gave him the wrong medication for pneumonia, and he died.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So really like super, like just sad and random. I think he's the only cast member who's honestly died. But I think that, while there's not a lot under the surface, like on the surface, there's a shit ton. I love seeing a wolf man get dynamite shoved down his pants and blown up.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I can definitely see why you appreciate it, because it's
a lot of physical effects, like
a lot of practical effects. Definitely. I mean, the thing I can say about this movie very sincerely is that they don't make movies like this anymore. Like in terms of just like that sort of like young, wide-eyed innocence, like age of innocence, sort of like, kind of thing where, you just kind of like, and they do, I mean, with Stranger Things and things like that, but Stranger Things as compared to this feels somewhat artificial. Like this feels a little bit more, I don't know. I think it's just more, because it's so uncomplicated, it's pretty straightforward. Like, it's very
right.
Point A to B.
There is no like deeper meaning. I mean, there is some kind of like very thin, deep, like whenever in doubt, just go to your friends and family. Like that kind of bullshit.
Right.
Like there's some kind of bullshit meaning.
But then it kind of like it throws in like a curveball, right? I mean, like with the old German guy. When he's like, I suppose I do, and then like you see the concentration camp like designation, and I'm just like, where the fuck do you get off, movie?
Like, I don't know. Well, I think now that you bring that up, the thing that I love about them bringing that up is that it also ends up kind of weirdly applying to Frankenstein, where it's like you look at Scary German Guy and he is terrifying, but he's a really nice guy. And it's kind of the same thing for Frankenstein. It's like, yes, I was also abused by Europeans for a long ass time, and like I too understand like what it is to be hated and for just being what you are. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I'm not trying to akin Frankenstein to the Jewish race, but I do
certainly sounds like what Fred Dekker and Shane Black are doing.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, that out of left field with Angry German Guy, but I think that I like the fact that they throw, it's kind of like they're supposed to be kind of like losers, but I don't feel like Stephen King's It does a great job of making these kids feel like losers. Like Stephen King's It really makes them feel like the rejects, and I think the novel, the 91, the 2017 one, I think they do a really good job in kind of getting that in your head that these kids have no other friends, like they're at the bottom of the barrel with the other kids. Whereas these just feel like normal kids, they don't feel like losers, like maybe Horace, the fat kid, whatever. But like none of them are really losers per se. They're not winners. They're not like quarterbacks and stuff. I guess in the 80s, if you weren't quarterback of the team, everybody else is a fucking loser. But
I think that's where I sort of like started to where the movie kind of like started to lose me, was that sort of like early on. It's like, because I really, and I'm kind of getting into my notes here, but whatever. My main note was like, how do these kids know each other? Like, like why are these kids perceived as losers? It's not like, this is clearly inspired by the works of Stephen King, right? So like there's the Stand By Me aspect, or The Body, or whatever. And then, like, as you said, with It, just like kids doing kid things, and then like being thrust into like a supernatural sort of like story. But these kids don't feel like those kids, and the dynamic isn't there. It might just be a victim of its runtime. Like, it might just be because like they didn't have enough time to get that kind of stuff in. But yeah, like I don't feel like that these kids are losers at all, really, other than maybe Fat Kid. But
Right. And I think even Stranger Things does a great job about making you know that, yeah, these kids are the freaks. Like they call Will fag, and like Mike gets bullied. Lucas gets called like midnight and stuff, like picked on regularly. Like you said, I think it might just be an issue of time, because and I think it's also an issue of age. I think if this movie were still made in 1987 and you made these kids like 13, 14, like they're all Rudy's age or a little bit older, this is a very like different movie. I feel like might be able to get it into that R rating. I think you probably could. Stand By Me is rated R, and you know that was made in what, 84?
Well, this is rated M, which is PG-13 in the States, which I was kind of surprised by. I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think fucking Indiana Jones fucked all that up in the 80s, and then they just started throwing PG-13 on everything.
Right.
But I think
what?
that
Little girl says chicken shit. Nah, we're gonna slap PG-13 on this bitch.
Yeah, we show a woman take her top off and exit the room. We gotta throw PG-13 on it. I feel like if you kind of take the age of the characters in the Lost Boys to age them down a little bit and put them in this, you get an R-rated movie that would have probably killed, but a PG-13 horror movie probably was not really attractive to a lot of people, and you couldn't bring anybody who, you couldn't bring a 7, 8, 9-year-old to this. It's too scary. And then you kind of alienate the other half because you can't have like super blood, like violent, like there's really not any blood in this at all, which is crazy.
I think this is perfect for a 7, 8, 9-year-old. I don't. Do you reckon it's scary for that age group? I think maybe a bit earlier, but
I mean, it wasn't for me, but I think I'd say probably like 8. But I know a lot of kids that probably could not have seen this at even like 10. It would have scared the shit out of them.
Fucking pussies, man. Honestly, what kind of world are we being raised? Are we fucking? What are we doing? I don't know, man. Right, exactly. I don't know, because like even like Dracula, he's very like toned down. Like each of these characters are pretty toned down. I mean, Frankenstein's monster is Frankenstein's monster. He looks horrific in anything. So
yeah.
I don't know. By the way, there's a movie coming out called Poor Things, which I think is it's going to be like an Oscar darling, whatever, with like Emma Stone and shit. Willem Dafoe plays Frankenstein's monster. Have you seen an image of this guy, dude? I'm going to send it to you.
I think I have. Wild. I think I have seen it. It does look pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I think I've seen like a brief thumbnail of it, but I didn't really click on anything. But I tell you, let me get my movie pulled up here, and I'll jump us into this thing proper, and we'll breeze through it.
Yeah.
A movie is going to be real good when it starts with a like 4-paragraph intro, and it's like, did we really need all of this? Like, you know how you can cut all of this out? You have one of the guys go, Van Helsing, and he throws him a weapon and he catches it and he's like, thank you, blah, blah, and they walk. Right. Okay, that guy's Van Helsing. I think we'll figure out that the guy in the cape is Dracula. I think we'll figure that out. Like,
I've been thinking about a movie like what you just said, because I've been thinking about this, like turning sort of like title cards into actual like scenes, like better ways to show like title cards. Yeah. And without getting into spoilers, Killers of the Flower Moon does this so well. That new Martin Scorsese movie, like at the end, because it's a true story, right? At the end of every true story, you get those like little captions like blah, 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 went on to live a life, whatever.
Yeah.
Scorsese doesn't do that. There's a 5-minute scene at the end which perfectly encapsulates those title sort of cards and like really like really adds so much fucking depth to the story. It's just it's perfect. I'll chat about it to you offline because it's still new, so I don't want to spoil it. But
sure. And I love, again, I love the way a lot of these sets look. Like Dracula's Crypt looks amazing. I think like just design wise. Now, are there definitely some bats on strings? Yeah, for sure. Is there an armadillo somewhere in the background? Yes. Like because they didn't think. Yes, there is 100% like an armadillo somewhere in the shot because they were probably like, listen, it's 1987. They'll think it's a rat. No one's ever going to have HD. And there was a goddamn armadillo as soon as this thing started. I know. It's fucking ridiculous. Right away we find out. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, man, in our repertoire of Van Helsings, who's your favorite? Anthony Hopkins, Hugh Jackman, or this motherfucker?
Yeah, I mean, this guy's barely, I don't know, like, he's barely even
This guy needed the help of children, so I don't...
Yeah. I love the way he, like, let's hurry this, shall we? Like, I love the kind of Sean Connery-ness about him.
Well, he's like a history teacher.
Yeah, I would say probably Anthony Hopkins. I mean, like,
he's so good at that movie.
Jackman's was too swashbuckly. Like, I like Anthony Hopkins because he's just so out there. The devil's concubine. Like, yes. I love the way he delivers stuff,
dude. That movie's so fucking over the top, man.
I know, it's so good. That's been on my list for a while. I need to pull the trigger on
Me too.
that. But
yeah, why don't we do this instead? Jesus Christ! Oh, by the way, guys, happy Halloween! This is the Halloween pick of the.
Oh yeah, it was perfect too to pick on, and I definitely want to continue. I want to do a few more even into November because it's like fuck it, we're not doing any Thanksgiving movies. So, but I like right away when you see Stan Winston's name, this is going to look good, and I enjoy like the kind of idea that we're getting of, okay, like, cool, we're getting this assault on Dracula's castle, which again, I really like the idea of. I think is fucking cool. Like, I like seeing like this, apparently the scale of the script, like Shane Black was like, I want Zeppelin coming. I want like Helsing coming in on like a Zeppelin, and I want like hundreds of people. And it's like, no, we'll give you like 2 buggies and a Sean Connery knockoff.
Could literally give him a couple of balloons. We're not giving you a whole fucking Zeppelin.
Like they want an army, and it's like, but it makes more sense to me because it's basically 5 dudes probably within 100 miles that would have the courage to try to fight like Dracula. I'm like, that's cool. I like that. I looked up this amulet shit in German, and I just had to go off of Reddit. There's really no like articles, but multiple people who are like, I'm German, and I tried to translate this, and it's just some German sprinkled in with like like just gibberish. And I learned that today after watching this movie for like 25 years. I just now figured out that it's some, there is some where it's like, yeah. There is some, it's like the tree of life and the darkness and the light. Like there is some stuff that they were able apparently to pick up on, but they're like, this is either like, this is just gibberish that somebody's made up, or the audio is so bad that it can't possibly be discerned like what is going on. And like,
Shane, we can't get the full German description, the translation. Fuck it. Just chuck whatever it is.
He's doing a line off of Mel Gibson's mullet in a trailer.
Right. Right. But off his body because he's fucking naked in that trailer. Yeah,
buns of steel. And I kind of like the fact that they lose. I like the fact that this is like the end of a movie where it's like, this movie is like the end of like a comedy where Van Helsing is like a Leslie Nielsen and fucks everything up. And like the end of this movie is like a Naked Gun Van Helsing movie, because it's like all they did was show up, blow the door down, and get themselves killed. You actually, you actively would have been doing more if you just didn't even go in. Like literally, and it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make any sense because Dracula wakes up. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. There is a deleted scene when it explains like why did you wake up and just run? Why didn't you take the amulet? And there is a scene that explains this kind of, but after we see Van Helsing lose, we go to present day, being 1987, not 2023. We meet, I just dropped my fucking remote.
What does this movie look like today if it was made today? What? Just curious because you said 2023. Lots of visual effects, surely.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I think it would visually be extremely like boring, and they would probably try to have, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, like at all. They would have like a much more diverse cast, male, female, different kind of like ethnic backgrounds and stuff.
Yeah, trans, someone who identifies as an air fryer. Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, and again, that's just kind of like how things are, and for better or for worse, or whatever your opinion. Like, you have that kind of element, and then you also have the fact that this would probably not be a movie; it'd probably be a TV show. They'd probably try to stretch it out.
It'll go to
like,
Netflix, yeah.
Right? At least 8 episodes, and every character would have its own backstory, and 2 or 3 of the monsters would be extremely sympathetic.
Actually, that sounds pretty good, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh,
I just watched. Okay, look, just tangent already. Like, I just watched The Fall of the House of Usher, which is the new Mike Flanagan show. Dude, by the way, fucking rips. I mean, Midnight Mass is one of my favorite shows of all time. But that show, if you don't know about it, it's based on the works of Edgar Allan Poe, and each episode is a one work of Edgar Allan Poe, and it follows one of the kids in the family that the entire show is sort of following, and their death, because the show starts off with, oh, all these kids have died, and then you find out how they died in each episode. And like what you just said, like if the Monster Squad were to be sent to like Netflix or whatever, you'd find out these backstories about like each monster and stuff per episode. And I'm like, you know what? If they did that in the style of the Fall of the House of Usher, I'd be like fucking down for that, man. Get Flanagan to get to do
I would absolutely, if Mike Flanagan were like, hey, I want to remake the Monster Squad, it's like, okay, yeah, I definitely sell a kidney to get that funded. Like that would, you
gotta get on the Fall of the House of Usher, man. It's
I know. Good. I love Midnight Mass. I like all of his other stuff. If you like Midnight Mass, you need to watch what is her name? It's that French show on Netflix. I've already forgotten it. Annabelle. I can't remember what it's called. That's kind of the shit out of me.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. I can't remember what it's called either, but it was recommended to me. Yeah,
I gotta look it up. Anyways, it's this great show. It's French, but it's on Netflix about this woman who's a writer, and she basically ends up coming back to like her hometown, where Marianne, that's what it's called, not Annabelle. Marianne. It's incredible. If you like that kind of stuff, definitely check out Marianne. But we cut to present day. Sean and Patrick calling their teachers. They send you to school to hear about the homos and the people with cat heads. Like that's I still fucking laugh at that. Like something about telling a teacher that she has a cat's head is hilarious. I don't know why that's funny to me. But we basically meet all of our characters like right off the rip. We see Sean and Patrick. We see Horace. We see Rudy. We basically meet everybody but like Eugene, who I don't even know why he's in this fucking movie. But the like I've kind of always thought that, like, why is this kid in here? And we see kind of like the kind of formation of this group, including Rudy. But I also go like, why the fuck is Rudy hanging out with these kids? Like, this is weird. Like, this kid's probably, I mean, how old do you think he is? Like 13? 12?
Well, yeah, he's definitely older. He actually reminds me of you remember Charlie Sheen in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when he's kind of like in the
in the
PlayStation,
like 15,
and he's just
16,
he's too cool for school, and it's like, what? But you don't, I don't know, like you guys don't, just the way you're dressed and the little quips that you have in this movie. The quips that you have in this movie are a little more mature than some of these kids, and I'm just like, what? Where are your friends, dude?
Right, yeah. And there's this just, again, the age is just kind of like, it throws you off, where it's like, they need an older kid who can basically, it's like, you feel better about Rudy staking one of these things in the heart than, one of these smaller kids. There's something about like, okay, well, he's probably can handle himself like better physically. Sean's going to get fucking wrecked. Like he's 4 foot tall, probably. Like he's going to get fucking destroyed. We see kind of like the beginnings of this, which are just weird. I feel like there's just like 10 minutes of this movie missing, where it shows, I don't know, Rudy is held back a grade, and he's almost perceived as like the Henry Bowers, but he's really a nice kid, and he like basically ends up sticking up for Horace because he likes him or something. I don't know. You need something there, and not just be like, oh, these kids are friends. Why? Like what is it that this kid's so cool with his rolled up pants and his white socks, like hanging out with a bunch of 10-year-olds. And I'm like, it's just weird. It's like, it throws me off still.
Well,
And he's like pushing the glasses up and smoking like the fingerless gloves. And I'm like, like in the 80s, yeah, you are cool as shit. Like you are cool as shit. But why are you hanging out with these kids? It's kind of weird. Like he's trying to fuck one of them or something. I was like, what is going on, dude?
Well, okay, but it's not only the age thing. It's like, why are you hanging out with the perceived losers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah,
like not only is it an age thing, it's also like the reputation thing. If these kids have the reputation of being losers, why are you associating with that? Like, especially in the way that you're dressed and the way that you're acting, your character's written, you're supposed to be cooler.
Yes, like a better version of this character is Eddie from Stranger Things 4, and I don't even love that character. I think he's just a better version. He's a better version of this kind of character, like somebody who's hangs out with a younger crowd, but because they're all into like the same kind of stuff, like monsters and video games and stuff and yada yada. But we see the formation of our group. We see, Rudy stick up for Horace. They talk about letting him in through a monster test. A scary German guy, which I saw him. Scary German guy. I saw him. And like I love moments like that in this movie. They're so kind of like
there's
charming.
always the creepy neighbor or like the person in the neighborhood who like urban legend. Like there's always like that person that we stay away from or that house that we stay away from as kids.
You are going to lose so many cool points who is in this movie that's one of the pilots and he's the one that pulls the hitch on Dracula and drops him out of the plane. Please tell me you got to know who this is.
Sorry, you just cut out for a second. What was that?
Oh, sorry. I was saying like on the plane when the pilot pulls the lever and drops Dracula out, you're going to lose so many cool points if you can't tell me who that is.
Hey, it's Richie April.
It's the jacket.
The fucking jacket.
I'll drive a Lionel up your ass. It's David Proval, I think is his name.
Yeah.
But
dude, he's fucking. He is terrifying in The Sopranos. Like when he runs fucking Beansy over, like dude. Like you just.
Like it gave birth to probably my favorite line. I would say one of my favorite lines in The Sopranos, which is "Don't give me your fucking Manson lamps." Like that is one of my favorite lines in that show. And he's terrifying as Richie April. Like he's one of the first real, I feel like, antagonist inside the family.
He is 100%. Because like I feel like The Sopranos goes through these sort of like eras in the show. Like there's like the Richie era, there's a Cifaretta era, there's like but that you can also characterize that by like who Tony's fucking at the time, right? There's the Arena era, there's the whatever era, like like whatever. But like the Richie era is so intriguing, especially he's also involved in one of my favorite deaths, which I'm not going to get into, but like sure. It's he's so good, especially like that moment with Janice when push comes to shove, literally. So yeah, right.
Well, and it's so funny because in this he's just like this nice, I don't know, like he's funny. He's just a nice average guy. And I'm just thinking about him just fucking like staring at Robert Patrick at the card game, like I like the way he's like, the fuck are you doing here? Like him chasing Matthew Bevilacqua with a bat out of like the back of that place.
Dude, the first thing he does when he gets out of prison is he goes to the fucking pizza store or whatever and he like tries to collect his money. And it's like, that's not the way it works anymore, bro. You've been away for some time, man.
For like 10 years. What did you think about this introduction to Dracula?
Dracula in this movie is problematic for me. Like he's just not terrifying at all. Like there is no for me there's no menace in this movie. Like because I'm a fucking 29-year-old man, but like I just him transforming into this tiny ass little bat.
Yeah. It's still it cracks me up.
Like It's not even like the green screen effect or whatever they use for the bat. It's just this like cute, tiny little adorable bat. Like they don't even like
and you
try
see it
and
like
make
chugging through the sky trying to get to the coffin.
Right. They don't even like try and make that look menacing. And it's just like, you don't have to go full on Van Helsing, like, when Dracula turns into that big demonic fucking creature. Like, you don't have to do that, but just do something, know?
Well,
but yeah, no. I like that they made him, like, they tried to make him look more like the classical Christopher Lee sort of like Dracula. But yeah, like, I don't know, man. Like, look, this movie doesn't work for me, in general. But I thought he was fine as sort of like the ringleader, because none of the other monsters are going to be the fucking ringleader, right? I mean,
right. Literally,
Frankenstein just learned English, so
right. Well, it does kind of feel like somebody who is a full-fledged, like, few hundred-year-old, like, being just controlling, like, basically a bunch of like mentally challenged kids. It's like they can't like speak for themselves. They have no will of their own. They're basically pawns. I
did write that Frankenstein was retarded in this movie.
Well, it's like, yeah, and I do like that though. I do like the kind of thing of like, they don't make Wolfman, and they don't make him like sympathetic in this movie. There's not a backstory, but I love the thing going on with the Wolfman. I think that might be one of the most, if not the most interesting thing in this movie, is a Wolfman who's being kidnapped by Dracula, force-fed prescription drugs, and then forced to turn into a wolf. And I'm like, that's fucking hardcore. I'm like, that's fucking hardcore. Like, that's pretty crazy to me that like somebody thought of that, of like, basically a wolfman who's so reluctant that you have to force him. Like, you have to drug him out during the day and just wait for a full moon. Like, the way I took that was he just feeds him drugs until it's a full moon time, and then he just lets him go. And I'm like, the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
That part of it's very clever, because like that leads into the Wolfman tipping off. What's the main kid's fucking name?
Sean's dad.
Yeah. By the way, Sean's dad, played by Stephen Markt. Stephen Markt is the father of Gabriel Markt, who plays Harvey Specter in Suits. Even if you haven't seen Suits, you know who Harvey Specter is. Like, he's like,
yeah, if I saw him, maybe.
Yeah, he played the Spirit in that fucking comic book movie.
Spirit. I saw that.
Yeah.
There's a few, like Mary Ellen Trainor. She's in like the Lethal Weapon, The Goonies, Monster Squad. She plays like the mom in this. Stan Shaw, I think, is his partner. He's in like Fried Green Tomatoes and like a few other like really good movies. But the basically see like our story kind of begin with Frankenstein's casket. I still don't like, okay, so they're transporting dead bodies, and why is Frankenstein still like, okay, whatever.
I do like that you get the intro of Frankenstein and the creature from the Black Lagoon at the same time, because I was just like, all right, man, like this is going to get tedious if we're just going to start introducing them one at a time, like,
Yeah, I definitely like the way they introduce everybody. I think that the Wolfman's intro is probably my favorite. Him throwing the cop through the window, and like I feel like everyone else here is just kind of like, not there for like a paycheck, but just they're kind of there, like the Wolfman and blah, blah, blah. Like Gillman, not really anything going on. Creature from the Black, or Mummy, nothing really going on. The person in the wolf suit, nothing really going on. Like, they're just pawns. And like Frankenstein is the only thing of any substance. But Uncle Rico, I'm just going to call him Uncle Rico. He's working on like a different level in this movie for me, like especially like the screaming, like lock me up, and just shooting into the ceiling, just trying to get like himself put up. But then like the moments later on, like when he's just like, he's constantly like begging somebody, like when he calls Sean's dad, is one of my favorite moments in the whole movie. And then finally at the end when he gets shot and he's like, thank you, and he just lies down, and it's like, holy shit, like this guy is, I feel like, spent a lot of time probably looking into this character, a lot more than I feel like most people would have for this kind of movie at the end of the 80s. But his intro to this is absolutely my favorite, and seeing him get killed, but then in the ambulance, like killing the ambulance driver, always really worked for me. The physical, practical effects of seeing the hand like pop up and bubble and stuff. I always love seeing that. Basically, we're kind of like checking in on all of like our, I guess like our crew, for lack of a better term. And like you said, I think that the way they kind of introduce everybody, where they introduce like Gilman and, Frankenstein at the same time, where it's him lifting up like that still works for me really well. And there's something derpy about the way Wolfman's face looks, but I love the bloody shirt, like ripped up, the blue jeans, like the huge torso. There's something about that I still think looks great. But yeah, his face is like, he almost like his eyes are almost like
stretched.
Yeah, he looks like a Deadite from Evil Dead takes over like a werewolf.
Yeah, Well, it reminds me of that moment in in Men in Black when Edgar kind of like goes up to his wife and I don't know, I can't remember if it was his wife, but he pulls his skin back and he kind of like stretches his like skin.
How
like
about
that.
now?
Like, you're right, exactly. Yeah, and I'm just like, oh, all right, that's exactly. By the way, the blue jeans, they are fucking tight.
I know, yeah.
Dude, like when getting into it later, but like when he says Wolfman's got nards, I'm just like, of course he's got nards, dude. Like, have you seen how tight those jeans are? The dude's like thick. You can basically see his nards, man. Jesus.
Well, and it does kind of crack me up that like the creature of the Black Lagoon, thank God he lives in Seanstown. Like it's kind of like it just so happened that this coffin landed in the creature of the Black Lagoon, or the Gillman's like backyard. And the mummy also, where does Sean live? Like the world? Is that just what his like, yeah, we can just pull from anywhere. Like he just lives like, yeah, the Taj Mahal is right down the street. If we need to go there, we can do it. But yeah, that is, again, I think that's one of the things where you have to go like, not have to, but as a writer, they're probably going like, man, that's the kid part of it. Like, we don't really want a lengthy, thorough adult reason to get all these people into a room together. Like Van Helsing, I think if you do try to do something like that, you get a convoluted ass plot like Van Helsing. Like you get something so far like, okay, so they're brothers.
Yeah, you need to go with it. Yeah.
Like something in between, I think, is what like works the best. But we see Frankenstein basically get iPhone rebooted, and we find out that Sean has Van Helsing's journal. Mr. Alucard calls. Like, that is corny. That always like kills me. Where it's like, I love how he calls. He's like, yes, I'd like to make an offer on the book. And it's like, this is a dude who comes into your house and like rips your little sister's head off. Like, This is Dracula. This is not a guy who calls to bargain with a child. Like,
how did he learn how to use the phone?
I mean, he's Dracula. He's a smart dude. I feel like he'd figure it out. He imagine him today and he's like, yes, 411. Like, sir, nobody uses that anymore. Yes, I'd like to look at Google. Big goth titty girls.
Is this movie phone? I want to find out what is playing on the cinema.
Is there still 1-800 sex numbers?
I want to talk to big titted girl.
Yeah, big titted goth girl. We basically see the formation of the club. Sean just saying, guys, Dracula might be in here too. Like, God, that part does make me like cringe. But as a kid, like I absolutely love this. Like all the hands being put in the middle, the dog putting his paw up last, and I'm like, how does he even get up here? And I was like, that's cute. That's all cool. It wouldn't be an 80s movie without an 80s montage after Wolfman and Dracula find the amulet, which just so happens to be in the house Dracula just bought. Basically, they end up... oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. This is when he goes down to Frankenstein. I'm skipping ahead. He basically sends Frankenstein to kill the children. And
by the way, Frankenstein just woke up. Like the guy just woke up and you're sending him on a GTA mission right now.
Right, yeah.
Like, let him fucking acclimate, by the way, man. Like, he's like, dude, I've been cobbled together from like random pieces of humans that my fucking doctor just like, grave robbed. I just want a bit of a break, man. I don't want to go fucking kill some kids right now.
Right. He's like, listen, I have the brain of a rapist. He's like, I can't help you. Like, I should not be sent on. Like, it kills me because it's like,
I'm on every sex register in every neighborhood. I can't go within 200 meters of a Chuck E. Cheese.
Because they're like, if you think about Frankenstein, he's made up from all these people that were hanged. It's like thieves and rapists and murderers, and it's like he's all the worst parts. But the interesting thing to me is how Dracula sends Frankenstein on, I don't know, like the double Dekker spec op to like kill these kids, and it's like I don't get it. Like he's like you'll have to go out after them in the daytime, and I'm like, or you could wait till nighttime, and like you don't have to go. There's that old thing of like you can't go in a house you're not invited into. Well, hell, he has no problem throwing a fucking stick of dynamite in there and blowing them up. And it's like, why was that not your plan from the get go? Like, why didn't you just go and blow the kids up? Yeah. Instead, you assemble the like basically the DCAU of 1930s like mentally handicapped monsters, and I put this like it's like Vince Vaughn had a better team with dodgeball. Like they probably could have gotten this done better. Like, and it kills me because like
this plan could have gone through a couple of drafts, man. Like, holy shit! Like,
let's
go back to the drawing board, huh?
Right. It's like Dracula just finds it all too easy now, and he's like, I'm trying to spice it up a little bit.
Challenge myself.
Yeah. But the kids meet with angry German guy. Basically gives them the lowdown. The amulet is used on one day, I guess, like every 100 years. And, it can throw the forces between good and evil off or something like that. No, basically it'll swap like good and evil, and evil will be on top, and it'll yada, yada, yada. And basically we just need a reason to get in here and fight some monsters. And it's going to be tomorrow night. And as we see as this is going on, Phoebe meets Frankenstein. They leave scary German guys, angry German guy. He's just yelling at him the whole time.
It's gonna be fucking gibberish because that's the script.
Yeah, and he's like, this guy's like Canadian. They're like, it's the closest thing to German we can get.
But yeah, the concentration camp sort of like
I know.
Designation. Well, okay. I thought for a second that they were going to do like full blown Avengers. I thought like the Alan Silvestri Avengers score was about to pipe up, because when he says, I suppose I do, I thought that he was going to be related to Van Helsing or a descendant from Van Helsing, because Van Helsing's German, isn't he?
I believe so, yeah. Or, as a kid, it always confused me because I didn't know what was going on. I thought he was a monster for a second. I was like, he's just some kind of like, he's some kind of like, he's like a ghoul or something. Like, I don't know. Like, what is that number? And basically, I had to have the Holocaust explained to me thanks to Monster Squad.
Oh, no, that was X-Men for me, dude. I was just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, that
was 100% Magneto. That opening scene. But like, by the way, old people are monsters, by the way. Just in a different way.
I love the misdirection. Yeah, when he has the knife and he's like, now is your last chance.
Yeah, that was
pie.
That felt like a full on, like, I don't know, like an old school, like Naked Gun kind of joke.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. And basically, what they find out is we have to get this thing at midnight, read this passage, and it has to be a virgin. And this is one of those parts of the movie I get super confused by, because if you're looking for a virgin, you're in luck. It's you don't have to look very far unless you guys are all being like, unless you guys are just out there slinging dick on the playground. I don't think there's like,
well, Frankenstein's out and about, so you never know.
Right. And it's like it blows my mind, but I think that there's that kind of like weird traditional like virgin, like female like virgin, and it's like, you know, because I feel like the connotation with that, especially in 1987, is a female. That's why they have to grab Phoebe at the end.
Yeah,
I think they need it's like if you just said a female virgin, that would solve a lot of your problems.
I honestly wish that was like, I wish I threw that in, because I was just like, I mean, you're speaking to a virgin right now, hopefully.
Yeah, there's literally 3 virgins in the room with you. Like, What the fuck are you talking about? And I guess it maybe should have been clear from like, because the first one with the Van Helsing, it was a female. You know, it was like a young one. That sucks. She got sucked into limbo as a virgin. That's got to be awful. But the gang returns back to base and find Phoebe with Frankenstein. Again, an extremely charming scene. Come on, guys, don't be chicken shit. And like Sean being the one to walk up and actually like, are you dead? Dead. Like I love Tom Noonan and the Wolfman are definitely the best parts of this movie. 100%. Like what Tom Noonan is doing is, again, at like such a higher caliber of a level. And what's funny is there's a story I heard behind the scenes that he was like, this is how seriously he took playing Frankenstein, was that at the end, you know, when he grabs Dracula and he's like, bogus, and he throws him and he lands on the spiked like thing at the end of the movie. Tom Noonan was, you know, did the take and had that big goofy smile, and Fred Dekker was like, hey man, like, yeah, like, no, this is your revenge, and like explained everything, like this is your revenge for like centuries of mistreatment and yada yada. And Tom Noonan was just like, no, I'm not doing that. And apparently he's like, it's the only time I've ever done this on set. And he was like, I'm not doing that. Frankenstein doesn't understand like malice. Like he doesn't understand revenge. Like, and I'm like, oh, that's, again, I applaud somebody for taking a character in this kind of movie that seriously. But
I agree.
If it's going to be anybody, it's going to be Tom fucking Noonan, you know, like such a great character actor.
Did you read how he got cast in this? Or what he
no, I didn't.
So I did do some reading, because like he's kind of like one of the only names that I know in this movie. But like after he did Manhunter, which by the way he's fucking incredible in, he kind of like became like sought after for like you know, he kind of like became typecast for those kinds of roles, and he's just like, man, like I kind of want something a bit more lighthearted, and he picked this over a role in Near Dark, which is the Catherine Bigelow vampire film with Bill Paxton.
Oh,
yeah!
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And apparently,
that's like another great movie.
Catherine Bigelow was like apparently so really wanted him, and you know, she like went to the Monster Squad set and was like, "Can we try and release Monster Squad a bit earlier so you know Tom Noonan can be in both of these movies, because I really want him."
That's crazy. I never knew that.
Yeah, and the studio was just straight up like, nah, sorry, Catherine. We can't do that.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, like Near Dark was a success, but like so few people have seen that as well. It definitely more than Monster Squad for sure.
I haven't seen it, but I know quite a bit about it.
Oh, Bill Paxton just eats. He is fucking eating in that movie. It's so good.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. We see kind of like the downsides to being Frankenstein. I love this, where they show him like the mask and he's like afraid of it, and like that still like gets. I mean, it got to me when I was 7 years old watching this. It gets to me now where it's like, God, yeah, that fucking sucks. Like, again, the perception of evil just because of the way that one looks is kind of is interesting. Barely scratched upon in this movie, but there nonetheless. And this is what I was talking about, where we see Dracula and the Wolfman basically getting the amulet out of Dracula's fucking basement, which is ironic. But I kind of, it's little things in this movie that I love, like all the crosses. Like they put all the stuff up knowing that Dracula would eventually probably find this room, and if he did, it was just full of crosses and holy water and shit. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But it would be
garlic everywhere.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a 80s movie without a fucking montage, which we absolutely have to have. And this song, me and my brothers listen to all the time. It's like Michael Cimbello, "Rockin' Till You Drop." And some like because we watched this, I mean, to the tape ran out like as kids. So we know the song like by fucking heart. And every once in a while I'll pull it up just because I'm like, I just want to listen to that. It's a fun song. I got to talk about Rudy. Like what? Does Rudy work in a mill? Like he's got like a 9-to-5 job and is like Rudy has like a 9-to-5 job and is like melting bullets and shit. Like he's like making weaponry. And I'm so sorry. I think our connection got lost there for a second. I might have rabbled for a sec, but the fact that Rudy is basically like this group is nothing without Rudy. Like Rudy basically, he kills the Wolfman. He stabs like one of the Dracula's brothers. Like he makes the bullets. Like nobody else does anything. Like they just make flyers and like, here's our business card because it's the 80s. Rockin' to you drop, bow, bum, 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 bum. Like that's all it is. Like Rudy's over there like sweating, like meeting people at midnight to buy silver bullets off of them and shit.
Dude, he is straight up like fucking pretty much like buying weaponry off the black market, dude. Like he is gone so hard for this mission, and everyone else is just like, oh, we're children.
Yeah, like could you imagine in today? So like a kid making bullets in a classroom next to a pack of Marlboros.
Jesus
like he
Christ.
empties them out next to an empty pack of Marlboro Reds.
Yeah, the MPAA, if this was made today, would have a fucking stroke, man.
Oh, dude, my God. They come up. We get this weird subplot with this picture of Patrick's sister, and I still like as an adult again, it blows my mind. They're like taking photos. They're basically being like voyeurs, and they're like peeping toms of one of the club members' sisters, which is like, why does she have to be your sister? Okay, whatever. And not only that, they basically blackmail her into doing this. Like, you know what works a lot better than we'll put out a nude photo of you. Like, the world is going to end. I will take you to a monster right now with a rapist brain who will explain all of this to you and tell you what is going on in this fucking world. And it blows my mind because, like, even, you know, I feel like a lot of times on this podcast, on other podcasts, and just in general in life, there's a lot of stuff in the 80s and 90s that we go, it's a different time. And it's like, man, I understand, like, it's easy to do that for a lot of movies, but this is 1987. Like, this is 3 years before I was born. And blackmailing a woman with her own nude photos is not something that was like, yeah, it's like saying gay or fag. It's like, no, it's not. I'm pretty sure that's a felony. Like, you're blackmailing someone with nude photos. Like, that's fucked up, man. Like even in 1987,
the only way that it sort of works for me is their age.
She's hot.
Because I'm not going to say it on the air because I don't know how old she's supposed to be. No. The only way it works for me is because they're all children. Right, like they're all pretty young and they're all kids, and the worst thing in the world for a young girl is to be embarrassed.
Right,
probably more so than the end of the world.
It works for me because they're hot young kids.
They're supple bodies and shit.
If anything, I'll be honest, it makes it even worse for me that it's like a 9-year-old being like, "Show me your tits, or I'll tell everybody." You know, and it's like there's something horrible. And it's your own sister.
Legend has it that Frankenstein's fucking frontal lobe is from me, from my brain.
It's such a weird subplot to have, and it's like instead of bringing her in and making her a part of the gang and trying to be a little bit more like, I don't want to say like inclusive, but like, can we not do this in the most tactless way possible? Right. Like this is so weird to do to anybody, let alone one of your like basically the vice president's sister. I was like, I don't know. It still blows my fucking mind. But I
can't remember what I was going to say. I knew this bitch was not a virgin. I knew that they were setting this up, dude. I was like,
really?
I fucking knew it, dude. Like, no one gets a fucking undressed like that. Did they get who you are? Your cherry has been popped, ma'am.
Well, I love how, it does kind of seem like, because it is the classic blonde 80s bimbo.
Yeah.
And, in the 80s, it's just all about, weekend parties and fucking and stuff that. And, you're going to lose your virginity too and blah, blah, blah. I love after this 80s montage, we have the Wolfman calling Sean's dad, and Stan Shaw, the partner, absolutely cracks me up. He's like, you want to know what's interesting, or what does he say? He's talking about the car, and he's like, you want to ask me about the kind of car it was? What kind of car was it? I thought you'd never ask. He's like, it was a black hearse. And he's like, I'm a very good policeman. And he just walks off. Like, he cracks me the fuck up in this movie. And like just his lines, like when they go to the mummy, and he's like, so you didn't see anybody come in or hear anybody come in? He's like, no. He's like, did you take him? He's like, no. He's like, all right, I give up. We should be firemen instead. Like that still makes me laugh my ass off. Like, he is a great comedic relief. And again, one of my favorite scenes from this movie is him transforming in the phone booth. I love it. I love it now. I loved it then.
I knew it. I was watching it and I was like, Colin, somewhere right now, Colin is jacking off right now. Does it look
bad in some spots? Absolutely.
Yeah, we just lost our fucking comms for a sec, but for some reason, I don't know why our call is dropping in and out. But
yeah, I have no idea.
No, sorry, I said as I was watching that, dude, like somewhere at that time, I knew that you were jacking off at that fucking transition, dude.
Now, does it look bad? And like when his eyes just, it definitely looks like a machine pushing another machine forward, you know.
American Werewolf in London. Like, it's not.
Right. You know. There's too much, like, there's too much light on the face, like that fluorescent lighting where it definitely looks like a dummy's head. Like, it does like the Michael Keaton Batman look, you know, where it like looks up at the roof of the phone booth. But I love like the shot of like his back swelling and the shirt ripping and like busting out of the phone booth. It's like, I love all of that, but yeah, that face shot and like the foam, like the clear kind of liquid when he's like, he's gotta kill your son. Like, I'm like, oh, holy fuck. Like that to me is still like super effective.
I love that he barely gets out the message. Like he's barely able to utter the warning before it takes him over.
And again, it's just, you know, this guy could get in a car and leave town and have nothing to do with this, but it's like he actually goes and tries to do the right thing, even as he's being used as like a pawn for evil. It's like a really, really interesting character. We already get to blackmailing, which I've talked about, and which is still blows my fucking mind. And they basically threaten her to post it at her school, which is super cool. Cool. It's like your mom's house when it's like, cool guys. And they play like a guitar riff, like cool guys.
Oh, something I wanted to bring up. This is produced by Rob Cohen. And,
I saw that.
That means you like Fast and Furious by proxy. So.
Oh yeah. What is that? I thought this is his name. Cowan.
No, it's Cohen. Rob Cohen.
Co what Ian?
Are you gonna give me shit for saying H?
H sounds like two letters.
You say
H.
How do you say help? Do you say help or do you say help?
I say help.
Exactly. So it's H.
Whatever. You and your backwards ways. You fucking backwards people. and your sand.
Well, technically, I mean, you're backwards because you're in the south.
I can't wait to hear this.
No, because I was going to say you're in the past. So, yeah.
Nation of convicts. I'll just end it at that.
Look, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. Zoheb just holds up a book. He's like, "Oh, what's this?" It says slavery written on the front. You're like, anyways, no. There's
a lot going on right now in terms of just how.
We get the blackmail scene, which is again awful. We get the what do we want to call this? The intrusion onto Shadow Brick Road that these kids are on, where they go into Dracula's mansion. They bring Frankenstein as well, and I don't know. So I guess that his footfall is so heavy that he causes the dynamite to go. I'm 33. I still don't understand what happens. I seriously don't get it. But anyways, it sets off this dynamite, which kind of collapses them all in and kind of leads to Frankenstein getting pinned down, which is not the person. Like, could it have fallen and killed Eugene? And they're like, oh no, Eugene, oh my god, and they just like leave him there. We get and I mean, the iconic line of this movie is when Wolfman jumps out and surprises Sean and Patrick. And gives him a swift kick in the nuts. As a kid, again, Wolfman's got nards, and the dog goes through Wolfman's legs, chasing after him, and it's fun and it's cute or whatever. And the kids are basically just running in a circle, and the Wolfman is doing that like Mortal Kombat loading screen thing when he's like, oh, I'm gonna, and it's like, I want to see a movie where he turns that corner and just bites Sean in his fucking femoral artery, like fucking just shreds
the
all
black
of them.
Spray blood, arterial,
yeah, just him shredding him up. I do love the when they get cornered, the image of like Dracula and then Wolfman and then the three brides, and it's like that still, like, the three brides still kind of creep me out even today. Like, they scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Definitely not as hot as the ones in Van Helsing though.
No, God, no. Those are like, whew, good God. Sean somehow miraculously finds the escape pod to this thing, and they end up jettisoning into the basement. Meanwhile, there's Patrick and Rudy and Patrick's brother. Maybe the monsters got them. Like, just stupid stuff like that.
Dude, it's
pure nostalgia for me. Yeah.
Every
it's like,
time.
I don't watch it and go like, yeah, that's fucking great. It's like that part is just like, it almost seems like, hey, just improv something, and it's like that's the best that kid came up with on that day. And I'm like,
we could have done another take, Dekker. Come on, man. Like, Jesus.
It's technically the end of a scene, I guess. It's like, is it the worst thing in the world? Like, no, it's better than no ending, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's pretty flat, and it's like, why do you even have the scene in here? Why can't we just cut to them in the basement, like,
it's the end of the world.
Amulet?
It is the end of the world.
Thank God that there's obese children in Middle America, because Fat Kid has a piece of garlic on it. That is so. As an adult, is so fucking funny. A fat kid with garlic pizza, and like basically like he's like a little James Corden. He just has like snacks on him all the time.
Hello.
Yeah.
Got his pizza.
You want to sing karaoke with me?
I'll tell you what though, this kid is nowhere near as insufferable as James Corden. So he's good for him.
Thank God.
Good for him.
Yeah, I hate that man.
Me too, man. Stephanie's just like, oh, yeah, he's fine, whatever. I'm just like, no, he's fucking annoying. He's smug, and, I just can't deal with him. Like, get your fucking carpool karaoke bullshit out of here.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't like him.
Wipe that goddamn smile off your face, piece of shit.
Yeah, well, that, and he's just like whatever he's about to say is like, oh my God, you have to hear, and it's like, okay, dude, just relax, like you're bugging me.
Chill, dude. When that whole stuff about him going off apparently at that service worker came up a while back, I was like, yes, he's fucking done, and he's still going, unfortunately, but
Well, I mean, I think he did cancel.
He apologized or something. Did he? Okay.
Well, I don't know if it's because of that, but I think that I don't know if he was just tired of it or what. But yeah, he's an insufferable prick. We end up basically Fat Kid saves the day with his pizza, and ends up leading them out of the house, which amazingly scary German guy, I keep wanting to call angry German guy, scary German guy has Eugene and the dog for some reason. Who knows? Here's this 5-year-old kid, 7-year-old, whatever, like however old this kid is, going around with an 80-year-old like a Holocaust survivor in just the middle of the fight. It's supposed to be midnight. Why does he have this kid like at fucking midnight? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
There's some serious like Herbert from Family Guy vibes right
He does kind of look like him,
dude. By the way, is this the scene where Dracula, the all-powerful Dracula, by the way, looks at the amulet that the kid is holding and just says, "Give it to me."
Yeah, give it to me. Give it to me. And I'm like, yeah.
Fuck,
you
man.
You would have been better off standing in the room and just be like, come take it. And just watch him be like, God damn it. Like, I can't get in there.
What the fuck? He just says, "Give it to me." I needed to. Yeah.
Well, and it it kills me because, basically all this happens for whatever reason. Rudy and Patrick and his sister, everybody shows up at the exact same time at the exact same place, thank God. And they all load up together and go off. The mummy gets got, which I like as a kid again, I loved like him being shot, but now as an adult, like Phoebe gets on my fucking nerve. And she later, if you go back and watch it, she's just barely, she's 5, she's a child actor. I don't want to be like too mean about it, but at the same time, it was like, holy shit, that audio, like just the mix of it was just something.
Yeah.
I could hear her just plain as day, like in the middle of that take.
Well,
and again, she's like 5 years old,
and
she couldn't even read when they did this movie. Like her mom would read her lines to her, and it's like, yeah.
That is just such a young age to be doing anything professional. But you know how the mummy is going to get got because there's only one weakness to the mummy, and that's to unravel him, right? Wood chipper. I'm just saying the guy doesn't seem like he takes. The mummy is literally here just to get killed. Like he serves no purpose. A nuclear explosion. Yeah.
I feel like you could walk up and just pump him full of like Full Metal Jacket rounds, and he would just die. Maybe not like just a 9mm, but something that just like really packs a kick.
Rambo shows up with that M60.
Yeah. I love not Rambo. I don't know why I think that, but Lethal Weapon is I think Murtaugh lives like on this block of like the Warner Brothers backlot or whatever. It's the same like backlot that they use for Lethal Weapon.
Neighborhood.
And I was like, that's cool. Technically, the kids from Monster Squad are neighbors with Danny Glover. But the thing that I end up really liking is not so much like. So for whatever reason, Dracula uses a black hearse with a silver skull as a hood ornament, and he can like phase through stuff. And I'm just like, it just, what this movie seems like was a huge factor behind some of the decisions. Fucking cocaine. It seems like there was a lot of cocaine probably going around, and just like, oh man, what if he like drove a hearse, dude, and it like phased through stuff, and it's like something that 10-year-old boys come up with, like when they're high on adrenaline. Why doesn't he just turn into a bat and fly? You don't even have to go on the roads. Like he's got a, like, you imagine him in the hearse, like, and it's like a stop sign or like a red light. And he's like, fucking annoying. That's what they pay my taxes. And it just takes off. Like,
cocaine is right, man. Bad. Like this is when I said $14 million and that this was a money laundering exercise, it's basically Pablo Escobar's like fucking money laundering exercise too. Like this is crazy. This is how Colombia got their money out. I'm telling you.
I don't understand. Like, so what were you doing? They're like, oh, we have to be here right at midnight, and it's like, what was happening to the point that you guys couldn't have been here at 11 o'clock?
Right. Promptly.
Like, why are you getting here at like 11:50 and barely showing up on time? Like, did you have something more important to do? Like, I don't understand. Like, what did you go to Dracula's at 10 o'clock? Why didn't you go there at 5? Like, why didn't you go there right after skip school today and go there during the day and steal the fucking thing? But the we get the basically the scene of them unraveling the mummy. I really do love Dracula blowing up their clubhouse still. I love the shot of it. I love the explosion.
It looks great. It looks awesome.
I love meeting a joke and just blowing it up.
There's just something funny about Dracula, the literary figure of Dracula, like the supernatural, basically like the version of the devil, like just throwing dynamite, destroying.
It's something. Like him carrying a gun. Like it would be weird. Like somebody tries to get him, and he like bares his fangs and pulls out like a little 6-shooter and plugs him full of holes.
like the clash of like supernatural and I guess I don't know, like that kind of like. Like human created like weaponry is just so funny.
Yeah, well, and stuff that like I like the whole thing of him, telling, like, straight up telling his dad, like, I will have your son, which just has the creepy as fuck
I read
connotation
this.
to it.
Yeah, I will have your son is creepy for all the wrong reasons. Yeah,
Yeah. And I like him literally transforming it. The way it's done, it's shadow, and it's like they cut to the mom watching this guy on your front lawn turn into a bat and fly away. Has got to affect you in some crazy way. But it's some of the surprisingly grotesque stuff in this movie. Like, they make it to the, in our plot so far, like, we make it to the town square, and we're getting ready to, like, read the amulet and yada yada yada. And Sean's dad shows up and shoots Dracula as the bat is flying in or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's cool. It lands on the top of like a sporting goods store, and when he gets up there is this horrible man bat, like something out of like a science fiction novel.
Yes,
and it's like,
yes.
what the fuck? And it's like, as a kid, again, I love it, and even now as an adult, I look and I'm like, holy shit, that is so weird to throw in there for literally one shot. It probably cost them, that probably cost thousands of dollars to literally use for one shot of him on the floor, and then Wolfman shows up and it's on to Wolfman. And it's like, well, that is such a weird thing to put in there, but I love it though. Like, I love seeing, I guess, basically him getting shot and it fucked up his transformation or something. Like, I like the fact that Dracula is like, yeah, I might be invincible, but that doesn't mean this doesn't fucking hurt.
Yeah.
Like, like that, like, it definitely didn't feel great.
By the way, we went past the moment where I think the only death in this movie is a black cop.
Oh yeah, him getting with the dynamite. Yeah.
I mean, 1987, the only character to die is a black character. Just, I guess Rodney King won't happen for another 4 years. So,
well, and I love the fact that it's like, well, we kept the Jew alive, and it's like that. Okay, I guess that counts for something, I guess. But like, listen, we didn't kill anybody important. But the final kind of like showdown here at the end, I still really like a lot. I like the them fighting in like the sporting goods store, the kid putting the dynamite in his waistline and throwing him out the window, and which they actually, like, in a weird way of like, they actually foreshadow that when they're in the treehouse, and he's accident with power tools. He's like, what about jumping out of a building onto a bomb? And I was like, I never caught that until many years later. But the coolest, I think, the practical effect of this movie, the best part has got to be the Wolfman torso, like, waking up. And I was like, oh my God, even now it still kind of works for me. Like, you can see the strings a little bit, so to speak, like, but at the same time, I still think, again, they use it so little, and the shot of just, it's like his arm, his torso, and then another arm gone, and he just kind of like lifts himself up off the ground.
I thought that was really impressive, actually. Yeah,
I loved it. Then the way he's kind of kept in like shadow, and it's like a dirty, grungy, just bloodbath in the street that he's laying in, like old newspapers and shit. And it's amazing how many of these characters are just done with like, yeah, you know what we did? We shot him. It's interesting. Like, all we did was shoot him. It was pretty crazy. It worked pretty well.
Just actual bodily harm works. Yeah.
None of these kids can carry anything more than a BB gun. We shot him with a buckshot, and it ripped his head right off his shoulders. If you kids had told an adult 10 minutes into this movie, this would have been solved.
Right. Turns out you need like a higher caliber, and that's it. You're good. You're good to go. That cracks me up. That guy, I can't remember who it was, and I can't remember in what context, but there was a character in this movie right around here somewhere who's holding dynamite and he's about to throw it, and he says a one-liner, and as he's saying the one-liner, he gets interrupted and isn't able to throw the dynamite. I hate that kind of shit, dude. Like, I'm just like, why are you doing this? Why are you saying this one-liner? Like, come on, just throw the fucking dynamite.
It's the 80s, baby. It's the 80s, baby. Come on.
Fuck.
HIV? What's that, baby? Nobody knows what that's about.
Why are you speaking like the black cop?
Nobody knows what this is, baby. But the thing that I end up liking and not kind of liking about it is that they just kind of like they wrap up a lot of these monsters really quick. Because we really want to see Dracula, and actually get to see Dracula do something in this movie. So, like Wolfman, I think has a fantastic ending. I love his thank you, and he just lies down and dies. Love it. I love him like getting triple attacked by cops, and then he's just slinging them like off of him. Gilman basically has gets killed by Horace's bet. Another a super iconic line from this movie is "My name is Horace." Da da da, and he like cocks. My brother Adam has that tattooed on his arm. He has the kid holding the shotgun, and it's like from the same angle of the movie. And I don't know if it says "My name is Horace." I can't remember, but I do like that. It's the closest thing that any of the kids have to like a character arc. Is this kid basically being like bullied, ends up kind of being the one to save his bullies from the real monster. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I do like that. But it really all seems like we're just wrapping this up to get to Dracula is what it feels like sometimes, because him showing up and the weird, crazy kind of like powers that Dracula has, like he lights the dynamite with his mind, which I always thought was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like he lights his own fuse of like dynamite. He shows up and there's like electricity like going around his body, which I was like, okay, I didn't know. Like, is he Magneto? I was like, I didn't
thought that too.
remember this.
I was very confused.
I was like, yeah, I didn't really know what was going on. And
cocaine, baby.
Yeah,
cocaine.
I love him walking off and the cops like grabbing him and him just snapping their necks and breaking their like. I love that. I love like the slow walk,
the like, offhanded sort of like, you are nothing to me. Like, yeah,
he's just grabbing guys' foreheads and just crushing them, and I'm like, oh my god, like that is truly terrifying. And like the slow walk, you know why? Because I fucking can. And it's like, I love I don't have to walk fast. Like Paulie didn't move fast for anybody, and Dracula didn't move quick for anybody. Dracula hated phones. He wouldn't have them in his house. I fuck AT&T. This is bullshit. But the slow walk off and him, grabbing Phoebe. I remember I actually met Rudy. I met Rudy, Sean, and Phoebe at a convention a few years back, and I asked her. I was like, I heard it was true that they didn't really tell you that Duncan Regehr, the guy who plays Dracula, that he was going to be in like full makeup and stuff. And like, is that your actual like reaction? She's like, yeah, they didn't tell me anything, so I had no idea. Cool. when they hit, like he was sitting there with his eyes closed and his mouth closed, and when they hit action, he turned and had these red eyes and these fangs. She goes, I'd never seen him like that, and he wouldn't talk to us on set. He stayed away from us and stuff because he wanted to have this kind of like, we're not friends. Like I want to keep this
that's cool.
Not friction, but kind of I don't want you to get too comfortable around me. Which I think is something really interesting to do, especially for kid actors. It's like, I don't want this person to think that we're friends, and that and I don't want that to translate to being on screen and they're kids. That would be a very natural thing to happen.
There was someone else who did that. There's a very famous, I can't remember who. There's another.
I want to say Tim Curry might have done that on it. I think
that sounds right. I think
Skarsgård, one of the two. But this whole kind of ending,
I think it was Skarsgård. Actually, now that you mention it, yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. But the surprising, like, with Frankenstein showing up and just grabbing Dracula by the neck and, saying bogus and launching him again, these great, like, this is basically the part of the movie where we're just tying off all the stuff that we want to see. Like, we get to see the Wolfman, like his thing kind of stops, like the what's his name? Horace ends up kind of like, having his little moment, and like everybody, all the wrongs are being righted. But the one that is so sad is Frankenstein having to go back into the limbo. Like that's still like, I can watch it now as an adult, but like 4 or 5 years ago and shit, watching it, like I would still cry because it made me so fucking sad having to see this, like, can't get right, get thrown back in. He didn't do anything wrong. Like it always pisses me off because it's like, why can't he stay? He's not a monster. Like he didn't do anything wrong. Like he hasn't hurt anybody this whole movie. Except for Dracula, but he's not a person.
Yeah, but rapist fucking body, rapist mind.
Yeah, that's true. Rapist brain. They probably couldn't like sloth from the Goonies him because they're like, how are we going to hide this thing? Like, look at him.
Hey,
Our
you
town is
guys!
we have to hire a new police force because this guy's buddy broke Larry, Dale, and Tucker's necks. Like he fucking murdered everybody, and it's like, how we can't just keep this guy in the backyard. Like what happens? Like what happens when you kids grow up and we still have to take care of a Frankenstein monster? Like what the fuck? They just send him back to just Never Land, and then this cute thing with the army showing up because of Eugene's letter. I again, as a kid, I thought it was awesome. But then again, as an adult, I'm just like, I mean, it's a good way, I guess, to end your movie, to kind of like cap it off, whatever. But at the same time, I don't know how necessary this is,
Yeah. And then we kind of like get our sort of like final line, we're the Monster Squad.
Do da da do da. Oh man, as a kid, I monsters assemble.
That's the only thing I was like thinking of, dude. Like I'm just like, I was like waiting for like you remember when we covered what did we cover? We covered Street Fighter, and like remember at the end of Street Fighter, like they do that little like with the Street Fighter, and like they do like the poses and shit, and like it's like a screenshot sort of thing. I was like waiting for that to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely super goofy, and it's just an excuse to have them walk up, and it's like I would rather like the people of the town walk up and be like, oh my god, like you guys did it, like who are you guys? And then they give up. It's like, but the army, like what the fuck is the army gonna do here?
Yeah, the threat's been resolved, dude. Like
right, yeah. Thanks to not you guys. What do you want to do? Well, that's basically Monster Squad. We wrap it up. Forces of Evil better run and hide from the Monster Squad. That's the song, by the way. Shut up.
No, look, I think you know what? Like, I think where the disconnect is, like, that this movie has no cultural resonance. Sorry, here or like in my age group, but also
it barely has any here.
I had never heard of this movie before you mentioned it like 5 years ago. Like I did not know what that was. I'd never heard about it before. And I consider, even like back then, 5 years ago, I considered myself someone who knew a bit about movies and stuff like that, and especially genre movies. But like there was nothing there. Like it didn't ring any bells for me at all. But I think I was like mistaken because Scott Buchanan was one of our comments, and Scott Buchanan lives here. Like he only lives like 40 minutes away from me. He goes, I think I'm late to the party. But if not, here goes. This is where fantasy horror joy goes to find its place in the universe. Love this film, only joy emanates. And, Scott knows it. So there must be something like, there must be some kind of like resonance here, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. I wonder if, this movie, it's only in theaters for 2 weeks and then they pulled it. And like the kid who plays Patrick, Bobby Krieger, he was like, I went to summer camp after we filmed and stuff, like the following year or whatever. And so I went to summer camp and didn't get to see it. And by the time I came home from camp, it was already out of theaters. And I was like, that sucks. I was like, that really blows. And like some of these people, like you talked about Tom Noonan turning down
Near Dark.
Near Dark. little girl that plays Phoebe turned down Fatal Attraction. She was going to be Michael Douglas's like daughter, and I guess she turned it down to be in this because she's like, it just sounded like more fun. I was like, oh man. I was like, I mean, still though, it's like as a child, yeah, I don't know how big of a role that is. I've never seen the movie, but I can't imagine that like a lot of people would be like, the little girl in Fatal Attraction. It's like, I guess, sure.
I get that mixed up between that and Basic Instinct, and I was like, well, she missed a chance to say Sharon Stone's Beaver, but that's the wrong movie.
One.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read off some listener comments. I tell you what, I'm gonna go with Jose Rivera. Thank you for commenting, Jose. I vividly remember watching Monster Squad as a kid. Unless I'm wrong, this is my first exposure to the classic monsters. I'm a big Creature from the Black Lagoon fan, and I adore this design. It's funny to think how easily available this is now compared to even 20 years ago when it was something you had to find a bootleg at a convention. That's exactly I remember as being like 13 and having to order a copy of this on VHS through eBay. And like it was not a thing. Like it wasn't mass produced until I was in like high school, like almost graduated, and then somebody had it on DVD, and I was like, "Holy shit, they make that on DVD now!" Let me see here. It was one of the. It was that one movie everyone remembered seeing when they were younger, but no one seemed to have. Duncan Reguera is one of my favorite Draculas of all time. Hell yeah, me too. He's that sweet spot between Bela Lugosi and Christopher Lee. He's got this amazing presence to him that entrances you. I grew up with him as Zorro in the Fox Family series, but he's an actor who can play hero or villain perfectly. Everyone references the Wolfman's Got Nard scene, but my favorite will always be My Name is Horace as he racks the shotgun with the dramatic Rambo music. Hell yeah. As you can see, I can write all day about this movie, but hope you enjoy it. And if this gets you interested, I also suggest Fred Dekker's other 80s horror comedy, Night of the Creeps. Oh yeah, with Tom Atkins. Until then, I leave you with one thought. Who else wants that Stephen King rule shirt? Well, I tell you fucking what, buddy.
Jesus
I got
Christ.
one right here for you. I'm fucking wearing it. I'm screenshotting this and putting it in the after party. That's what I'm doing. There we go. Smile, Zoheb.
I'm face palming, man.
Now they can see our terrible quality.
Thank you for your comment, Jose, man. Appreciate you very much. By the way, Fred Dekker, RoboCop 3 as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, like, I guess 20 years later, he reunites with Shane Black to write The Predator, which is really bad, which is the one that Shane Black did.
I saw some of that stuff, and it's pretty funny because Fred Dekker, there's an interview where he's like, yeah, basically Monster Squad ruined my career. He's just straight up like it basically derailed like a lot of plans I had. And, like, I was an up and comer, and Monster Squad just totally derailed me. And I was like, oh fuck.
Wait, but he did RoboCop 3 after this though, didn't he? Like, I mean, that would have surely put him in direct to jail.
I think RoboCop 3 is pretty fucking terrible.
Yeah,
actually, like it doesn't have Peter Weller in it. It's a very
no, that's what I'm saying. So like RoboCop 3 coming after this and it being as bad as it is, I would have thought that would have been the one that would have ruined his career.
I mean, maybe he did some stuff between here and there because this is the same year. Like 87 was a good year for movies like RoboCop, The Lost Boys. Like I think this guy did get partly like lost in the shuffle of things. I think First Blood Part 2, or maybe that was 86. But
Die Hard was right around the corner, 88.
Oh yeah. Let me see here. I'll pull up another comment real quick. Unless you've got some pulled up.
I can read Floyd's. Floyd is my energy. Like he's channeling my energy. Floyd Fry, Cooking with Dad, the Pop List, amazing Floyd. We love Floyd. He says there are kind of goofy / fantastical movies I loved as a kid and still love today, like Goonies, Neverending Story, Beetlejuice, etc. Then there are movies like this and Gremlins I absolutely loved as a kid, but can't get through as an adult. Yeah, look, I think the two examples that he throws out, like this and Gremlins, that, and for me, Goonies, those three, including this, are movies that have been introduced to me after the fact. So Goonies Goonies and Gremlins I watched because I was a huge rabid LSG Media fan, and when they dropped their episodes, like I guess like 5 years ago or something like that, like that's when I watched it. So watching those two movies, Goonies and Gremlins, for the first time as a 24-year-old is, you really need to do some mental gymnastics and place yourself in the shoes of someone watching it in the 80s or whenever those movies were made.
Right.
But like they don't like this movie. Monster Squad definitely falls into that category for me of like, you kind of needed to be there, you kind of needed to be
you needed
present.
To be the right age for it. Floyd, I'll kill you and everyone you love. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
I nearly spilled my water. Fuck.
I knew that would get you. No, I'm just kidding. I love you, bud. I knew he kind of like I knew he'd seen it before, but I think I remember from us talking about it in LSG that he was like, yeah, like I'm not like huge on this anymore. And I definitely get it, like especially when there's like some comedy stuff really doesn't land anymore, and it's not great. It's not great. Jason Tick, Wolfman's Got Nards. I think I will also, let me see here, Jose. Okay, yeah, Chris Kennedy. Oh yeah, my buddy Chris Kennedy, who also, this is the guy who basically came up with our theme song.
No relation to John F. Kennedy?
Possibly.
Just checking.
Chris Kennedy says, Colin introduced me to this movie probably 10 years ago, and even though I've now seen it dozens of times, I must say it's still one of my favorites. Nostalgic feel and a playful take on the traditional monster genre. Stoked to listen to this one for sure. Thanks, dude. Hell yeah. Good to see you. Again, at my wedding, by the way. He came as Spider-Man.
Oh, awesome.
It was a good costume.
Sick. Well, Chris, thank you for listening, and I'm sorry for derailing it. But it's no, this is fun. It was fun to talk about this, especially because you and I, like, it's no secret, like throughout our time on this podcast, that there has been like some kind of like sort of like ships in the night sort of thing. Like even though there is like only a 3-year age gap, there's also the cultural difference. Like like being pretty much on the other side of the planet, being interested in different genres. So it's really interesting, like when we get a movie like this that for me has no resonance at all, and for you is pretty much is a lot. Like you can go back and count how many times you've mentioned this movie on countless episodes of this podcast.
Oh yeah.
And it's such a staple to you, and it's really interesting to kind of like see why. And for me, I definitely see why. I just, it's not for me, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad movie. That doesn't mean that it's not for people who are into this genre at all. And that doesn't mean it's definitely not for people who like the content that we kind of I hate that word content, but like that's what it is. The content that we get of these characters now. So, Dracula, and I know that David Fincher back in the day wanted to make what was that, 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea? Sorry, it's not Creature in the Black Lagoon, but like every time we see these characters now, they're all these like gritty, dark versions of these characters. Like Joe Johnston made that Wolfman movie, which is this gritty, dark version of this character. And the Mummy, obviously the Tom Cruise one was really bad, but it was a gritty, darker version of that movie, of that character. And it's like you don't really get these light-hearted romps through like these literary characters anymore. And it's just such like a screenshot of like of that era. It's pretty good.
Well, yeah, as at that time, like that's the kind of movie that like something like The Thing comes out in 1982, and people wanted E.T., and then by 1987 people were like apparently over that shit. I'm not saying this movie is as good as E.T., it definitely is not, but I do think that this kind of movie should have killed in the 80s. It definitely should have killed. Like it has it's got the montage, it's got the one-liners, it's got badass special effects, it's got like kids on bikes, like it absolutely should have killed, and it kind of blows my mind that it didn't. It's not like it's poorly made. It's not like you're watching The Room with Tommy Wiseau or whatever. I just think that it probably suffered from lack of it's the classic monsters, but at that time you got to think in the 80s how Dracula and the Wolfman probably looked compared to Jason and Freddy and Leatherface. And it's like, now's the new like kind of horror. And I think that especially now that like Freddy, Jason, and stuff like that, how those look compared today to, stuff like Get Out and Midsommar
A24
and
stuff.
Like, right. And I think that, nowadays it's really easy to kind of forget that like at the time, these monsters were not really cool. Like there were no, like the Hammer films like stop in the 70s. You have like the Universal films and then the Hammer films. And then those kind of stop in like the 80s. I feel like they don't really make a lot of those. And it wasn't until like the 90s you started getting like Bram Stoker's and then Interview with a Vampire, and Near Dark came out in the 80s as well, Lost Boys. Like the monsters were cool, like vampires, but not Dracula. Like I feel like that had just been done to death. It'd been going on for 50 years at that point. So I think that that's one of the reasons why it probably didn't help a whole lot. Like it's a lighthearted romp through like these murderous monsters, and it's like, yeah, okay. I think it's just it's a weird cup of soup. It's cold in some and some places and hot in the other, and I can't figure out the right temperature to it. But nevertheless, I love it. I love my brothers for showing it to me, and I'm sure they'll remember how we got it home. I think we rented it or saw it on TV or something. But it definitely affected how I view films and stuff as a kid, and it definitely, I can see the cracks and stuff for what it is now, but at the same time I will die on this hill being like, no, this is a very well made movie. If not for, there's some performance issues and story issues, but like I will die on the hill that it is a well made, like good looking film with solid performances from a lot of the adult actors. But that's pretty much it for me. You got anything else you want to get out of here?
No, man. Other than to say, this conversation was better than the movie for me. Which
I figured it would be.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like which has happened a number of times on our podcast, which I enjoy.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the at least some aspects of it. I knew it was going to be something where I was like, yeah, this is probably, it's funny because it's like we live so far away, and then it's only 3 years, but I think if you add that kind of distance into the time, it's like 5 or 6.
Right.
It feels like sometimes I feel like, no, extend that by or double it, and you'd be about right. But even for me, I mean, this is 3 years before I was born. So it's like by the time I saw this at 7 or 8, this movie, like I'm 7 or 8 in 1997. This movie is already 10 years old, and it's like and you're what, 3, 4? Like at that point, it's like, yeah, you're not going to be catching this, but it has a huge cult following now, and it's massive. And I'm glad that like it's kind of had like it's definitely had its day in the sun, as I like to say. And I'm glad that this is one of those things that once the internet kind of like came around in the early 2000s, that's what really saved this movie. I think one website that gets thrown around a lot in there is Ain't It Cool News. Like that website, they were the ones who first started kind of like, I guess, really talking about it a lot and kind of brought people back in and stuff like that. And there is a really cool story I'll end on where, this is like the early 2000s, maybe like, I don't know, like 01, 02, 03, 04, maybe. And they, they're all living like their separate lives. Like I think Brent Challam had like passed away and stuff. And they end up getting a call from like an Alamo Draft House in Texas. And they're like, hey, we're going to do a screening of the Monster Squad. We have a lot of fans that want to see it. And they're like, can you guys come and do like a Q&A or something or signing? They're like, yeah, sure. And they're like, and they showed up and the place was sold out, and they added another show, and then that one sold out. And I was like, holy shit. And then they kind of realized that for 20 years, this movie had been like slowly gaining momentum and finding like a cult following and stuff. And, I'm glad it has. Is it perfect? Like, no, not by a long shot, but it's still one of my personal favorite movies that's ever been made. It's right up there with, those kind of like I said, like 1990s It, like this, the kind of stuff that really scarred me as a child real good. But But with that out of the way, we want to thank you guys for listening. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the episode. If you want to check out any more of our stuff, check out our feed on iTunes, YouTube, wherever you want to find your major podcasts. And our socials are in the show notes. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/midnight double feature for $5 a month. You get 2 extra episodes